The Peacekeeper is one of the most satisfying and rage-inducing guns in Apex Legends. It seems like you are either hitting for that crispy 99 damage and above, or hitting for a measly 9. Is it just bad luck, or is there a way to get better at using the Peacekeeper? I will answer that question in today's video on how to get better at using the Peacekeeper in Apex Legends. The first section I will get into is the stats of the Peacekeeper. Now I know this may seem boring and not essential, but this will help you understand the fundamentals of the gun. But first off, for the damage. The Peacekeeper has 11 pellets that form in a star shape, and each pellet does 9 damage to the body, 7 damage to the leg, and 11 damage to the head. And for the max damage being 77 damage to the leg, 99 damage to the body, and a possibility of 121 damage to the head, depending on the helmet that the person's using. Now the velocity of the bullets goes at 365, which we will get more into why that's important later. For the handling stats, the tactical reload is about 2.5 seconds before your last shell that you have in your gun. The empty reload time is 3.5 seconds, so a full second longer. The draw time is a 0.45 seconds, and the ADS movement speed is 91%. Now for weapon clarity. The gun itself is pretty bulky, and the sights, in my opinion, are pretty unusable. But there are some skins for the Peacekeeper that allow you to see more. I personally recommend these two, but you can really use whatever ones you want. It's personal preference, but I really do prefer these, as they look cool and allow me to actually see a whole lot more on my targets. Okay, now that we know the stats of the gun, let's actually look into firing the weapon itself. Now the difference between hip firing and ADS is pretty close to all other weapons, but no matter what range you are at, the spread and the shape will be in a star formation for your pellet spread. The closer the gun is to the target, the smaller the spread will be, and it will get to be larger the further out it goes. The only way to tighten that spread is by aiming down sights. By doing this, you will start to use the choke of the Peacekeeper, which tightens the spread and tightens the star formation. By tightening the spread, you're able to hit targets at a further range more consistently. Now when it comes to ADSing versus hip firing, it depends on a couple of factors: how close you are and how skilled you are at aiming. The closer you are to the target, the less likely you should use the sight for the choke of the gun. Sure, it tightens the spread so the bullets are close together, but that doesn't matter if you're dead, and especially doesn't matter if you can't even hit your shots. The damage when you're close to your target is the same when you tighten the spread or when you have it wider. There are two massive drawbacks to aiming down sights with the Peacekeeper. One of them being that you have to wait for the choke to tighten. The second one is that you have to then hit that shot at a closer range. There are ways to counteract the downsides of ADSing. The first one is to have the precision choke. The choke quickens the tightening of it when you normally use it, but also when you are sliding. And look at that speed. That's just kind of crazy. And I know that in my aiming tips and tricks guide, I said that a major downside of ADSing is that you're a sitting duck. And that is still true. But with the precision choke added on, you can slide, have that mobility, and also tighten the choke so you have a better chance of hitting your target if you actually aim at them. The second tip is to play around with the doors and objects. If you know that you want to use the choke, then it can be really helpful to play around it. Hide behind a door and wait for someone to come up the other side. Open up the door, shoot them, and then close it again. Hide around objects, gain high ground, peek in and out, use head glitches. All these sort of tactics can really help you get the advantage when you're trying to wait for that timer to go up for your choke and to hit your target. There's no point in just standing out in the open and waiting for it to go and then firing. At that point, you are just a sitting duck and you are going to be really screwed. Now we're just going to pause this video for a second because you haven't liked it yet. What are you doing? There's some really good content here, like this video here, and oh, I haven't made that much yet, but I will in the future, so make sure you drop a subscription if you want to see more. Bye. One mistake I used to make with using the Peacekeeper, and that I see people use all the time, is that they'll actually quick scope at close ranges. Now this actually doesn't do a whole lot. So here, we're just going to hit fire. As you can see, the spread is pretty wide like it normally is, and here we're going to quick scope right next to it. As you can see, it's literally the exact same. So there's no point in quick scoping. If anything, that might actually damper what you're doing. So definitely don't quick scope. If you're going to quick scope, you might as well hold it for a bit longer. That's when it starts to damper a little bit. So instead of going quick, maybe aim down, wait a tick or two, and then do it. That helps it out a lot. Knowing how to ADS versus hip firing is great and all, but what if you're still having issues with hitting shots? What is causing that? This section is about how to aim the weapon properly. One point that a lot of players don't think about when it actually comes to guns in general, and specifically the Peacekeeper, is the velocity of its pellets. The pellets fly at a velocity of 365, which for reference is close to the Wingman at 355. Do note that while the velocity of the Wingman in PK is close, that does not mean that the weapons are similar in other aspects. The bullet of the Wingman is much much larger compared to the PK's pellets, so you don't necessarily need to treat the PK like the Wingman, but you for sure can at closer ranges. Since the Peacekeeper has a similar velocity compared to the Wingman, you do need to lead your shots a bit if you want all of your pellets to land. Often, players will aim directly at the target when they are moving, and this works. You can see that you can still hit some pretty decent damage numbers, but you can get even more when you lead your shots by a little bit, as you would with the Wingman. Another tip to help you hit your target is to track your target. I will admit that flicking to your target can be super clean and satisfying when you hit them, but how often do you actually hit that shot? Tracking your target for even a bit longer than you're used to can help you hit larger numbers with the gun. Eventually, you'll get used to how the Peacekeeper works and can reliably hit that flick shot more often, but the Peacekeeper can be hard to use if you are not used to it or the Wingman. So take some time to get used to the gun, and in no time, you'll see why it is one of the best guns in the game. By keeping the stats of the weapon in mind, knowing the difference between ADSing and hip firing the gun, and knowing how to properly aim the weapon, I have no doubt that you'll be one step closer to achieving whatever goal you have in mind. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the video. If you like it, leave a like, and with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.